Let's get into non-factorable quadratics, where we use the quadratic formula. And we're also going to talk about that scribble down there says completing the square. You need to know how to do both if you're going to continue on doing math and stuff. Quadratic formula takes a while, and I rarely use it. I would much rather complete the square, but let's just jump into it and start talking about the quadratic formula. So here we be, quadratic formula. Remember this? If you got some ax squared plus bx plus c and it's set equal to 0, then we're going to say that our x values are going to be equal to our negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I know local teacher says it like this, which is only helpful if you already know it. So maybe we'll go back from this. So the negative boy was unsure whether he'd go to the radical party. The boy was square and missed out on 4 awesome chicks. And the party ended all over at 2 a.m. I don't know how helpful it is, but I like saying it. That's the quadratic formula. Most students lean towards that when given an option. I'm going to try and convince you to go towards, I don't know why I'm doing all that. I'm getting bored. There we go. I'm going to try and convince you to do the completing the square. We'll talk about that in a second. So we're just going to deal with one problem. We're going to do it in 2 different manners, and you tell me which one seems simpler to you. We're going to find all x. What we have is x squared minus 2x minus 1. And at first glance, you might think that might factor. It doesn't. Negative 1, the only 2 numbers that equal negative 1 that are whole numbers are negative 1 and positive 1. And negative 1 plus positive 1, that's equal to 0. Hence, this does not factor. So let's use our quadratic formula. And as we do, why don't we just start listing things and going, our a is equal to 1, right? There's a little magical 1 that's sitting there. We just don't write it. Our b is equal to negative 2. Notice where b is. I'm going to come back to this and talk a lot about just the b. And then c is equal to negative 1. Well, let's bebop this thing into our quadratic formula and see if we can't get this thing solved. So we say that x is equal to negative b. So negative b will be negative 2. Plus or minus. That's going to get us those 2 solutions possibly. Zoom out a little bit. And then we're going to take our b squared. So we'll take our negative 2 and we square it. Minus 4 times our a is 1, and then our c is equal to negative 1. Always pay attention to that sign on the c. It means a lot. And then it's 2 times our a. Okay, well, let's get to work. Just got to clean it up. It's got to be completely reduced, all right? So we're like equals negative 2 is equal to positive 2 plus or minus the square root of some negative 2 squared is 4 minus 4 times 4, or 4 times 1 times negative 1. Oh, that changes it to a positive. Oh, there we go. We're almost, oh, look, simple numbers. We're almost done, huh? So 2 plus or minus the square root. So that's 8 over 2. But this isn't reduced. And now please don't do this. I'm going to do this in red. That's not true. That doesn't work. What about this? What about that? That doesn't work. That'd be like you telling me this. 2 plus 7 divided by 2. And you're like, nah, it's just 7. 9 over 2 equals 7, huh? So don't do that. It's a very common error I see. So don't do that. You're going to have to get something to factor. Now, here we go. We have this 2 plus or minus. Now, 8. Isn't that 4 times 2? Isn't 8 4 times 2? So we break it up into those pieces. Into those pieces. Now, what's the square root of 4? Damn straight, it's 2. So we get it's 2 plus or minus 2 root 2 over 2. Well, shoot, we need to get rid of this 2. Notice there's a 2 and a 2 and a 2. Oh my gosh, it's gonna cancel. So I'm going to use a factoring trick saying that there's a 2 here and a 2 here separated out by a plus or a minus. I'm going to factor that 2 out to the front, leaving us with 1 plus or minus root 2 all over 2. Now we can cancel out those 2's, and there we have it. is equal to 1 plus or minus root 2. That's what x was equal to. We got it. Woo! Quadratic formula. All you gotta do is memorize it, and I'm always going to get the right answer. And students don't typically get the right answer very often when using a quadratic formula, to be perfectly honest. When they complete the square, when I see a student that uses complete the square, they almost never make mistakes. So I'm going to do the same problem, but I'm going to complete the square. Let's see how we get to it. And you tell me which one you prefer. Now here's the game. We have x squared minus 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. Since it's equal, I like to, when I complete the square, my preference, you don't have to do this, I like to just kick the number aside. Just move the number over to the other side. Like x squared minus 2x, and then leave a blank spot there. Give a little bit of room, huh? Give just a little bit of room, because we're about to add something in to both sides of this. We're going to add something in. Now here comes the game. I told you that B is going to be important. So when we're dealing with completing the square, this different method over here, that was our quadratic formula, our quad formula. And now I'm dealing with completing the square. So there it was. There's my step 1. I moved that stuff over. So let's look at our B. Now here's the game. Cut it in half and square it. Cut it in half and square it. Cut B in half. So step 1. Cut B in half. Cut it in half. So just put a 2 underneath it. So half of B is equal to negative 1. Neat. Step 2. Square negative 1. That's 1. So that's what we're going to add to both sides of this equation. That's completing the square. Cut it in half and square it. Cut it in half and square it. Because all you got to do is cut it in half and square it. Now what this did, now factor this left-hand side. And it creates a perfect square. Two numbers multiplied together to equal positive 1, but summed to be negative 2. How about negative 1 and negative 1? It creates a perfect square. It makes it as x minus 1 all squared. It's always x plus b over 2 squared is equal to 1 plus 1, which is equal to 2. Now you hit it with a square root on both sides of this equation, but don't forget your plus or your minus, and it's going to be 2 steps away. Always put the plus or minus on the number. Now that square root gets rid of that square, leaving us with x minus 1 is equal to plus or minus root 2. Now add the 1 over. Ta-da! And there's your solution. What was that? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 steps. And factoring. And reducing radicals. Or you could just learn how to complete the square. And in this course, there's going to be multiple times where you have to complete the square. Second exam stuff, you're going to have to complete the square a few times. Actually, third exam stuff, you're going to have to complete the square too. So maybe jump on it and learn this method. It's super helpful. But there you go. I'll see you in the next.